sector, hosted by Data Capture Solutions. My name is James Howlett, and I will be monitoring any questions that come in during this session. More about that in a moment, and I'll shortly be handing over to your presenter, Dean Francis. Now, the session will be expected to take place for about half an hour or so, give or take a few minutes, depending on how many questions we receive during the course of Dean's presentation. Take note, please, of the control panel on your presentation screens, probably on the right of the screen, where there you'll find a questions box. Now, if anything occurs to you that you'd like Dean to expand on a little bit at the end, that's what the questions box is there for. Do please use that to pose any questions that you'd like Dean to address after the main presentation. Now, this webinar is here as a result of having done something similar, but in a live scenario. We did a seminar a couple of months ago for the charity sector in London. It went down very well. We had lots of great conversations with several charities, small and large. So we decided to create the opportunity for a webinar for anyone who can't necessarily make a half-day commitment for that. So Dean will be doing his best to contract the nuts and bolts of that into a half-hour or so presentation this morning for you. So, as I said, I'll be monitoring the questions. Do please use the box if anything occurs to you, and we'll address those at the end. So now, without further ado then, I shall hand you over to your presentation with Dean Francis. Good morning, Dean.
Good morning, James. Thank you very much. Good morning, all. And just to reiterate what James said, thanks very much for your commitment in time this morning. Hopefully the next half an hour will be of benefit to you. As James said, we did this event live in London a few months back, so this is born out of what our customers are looking to achieve and already achieving in many cases, and what a lot of our prospects are coming to us for in your particular sector. And again, I think it's changing, it's moving fast, so hopefully we can give you some background to what they're looking to achieve. So just to quickly on the agenda, a couple of quick slides on maybe some of the current challenges, the size of the sector, what sort of technologies is available and being used today in your sorts of organisations to help streamline their operations. That will cover and incorporate things like the inbound mail capture, how information gets received and comes in, and in what sort of formats. You will be getting checks, gift aid form, donation forms, general correspondence, complaints, but hopefully not too many of those, but various different formats. And how can we get access to that information? So whether we have mobile workers, home workers, and just securing that information in a centralised environment. And again, we'll give you a couple of slides on a case study from one of our existing customers, which is Macmillan Cancer Support. I think it's good to point out at this stage that while Macmillan are pretty much of a household name and obviously quite a sizable charity, these solutions can be geared at various different sizes and scalability to help many organisations. So we do have smaller groups of people and organisations that are using the same sort of technology, so it's very scalable. I think the important part is it's just a smarter way of working and getting on that ladder. And again, there will be some questions at the end if you do have any that James will field, so hopefully we can answer those for you. So a little about the charity sector, which I am sure you're more than familiar with. Around, again, information taken from the Charities Commission, around 160,000 registered charities across the UK. That is a lot of charities out there. Around 10,000 of those have got an income in excess of £500,000. And again, about just under sort of 1,900 with income over 5 million. So there's a lot of charities out there, and a lot of money and funds being raised, and a lot of back office operations going on within your organisations. Quite staggeringly, there's an estimated income last year at the end of 2014 around £64 billion. Quite a phenomenal amount of money that gets raised by your good selves throughout a year. I think also a significant stat is that 10 years ago, let's say prior to 2014, that income was around 35 billion. So you can see the growth over that 10-year period of nearly doubling. I guess also from recent news that I heard earlier in the week, and I thought maybe towards the end of last week, certain councils are putting on restrictions about how charities operate out in the street and out in the field, collecting money directly from those fundraisers. So it's getting more of a challenge now, and again, it's looking at how we can streamline and keep that loyalty with the donors and the supporters, and maybe that's more electronic methods, keeping information in front of them and keeping you at the front of mind. So why is that relevant? All that revenue that's being generated amongst your organisations, it's relevant because you'll be no doubt getting information and funds raised in various different mechanisms, through the people on the street, through the tins that are coming through and the cash there, through people that are donating either via direct debit or via cheque. And again, there'll be various ways that people can communicate with you. And obviously it's important to let them communicate in those ways if they're looking to donate money to your particular charity. Currently, a lot of that is done in a very manual environment, and that's where our customers and prospects have come to us asking to look at ways that we can manage that information, do something with it a bit more cleverly, integrate in with some of their back-end systems, and have a bit more visibility and track and traceability of what's coming through the charity. So what is the actual knock-on effect of all this information and communication coming in and out of your organisation? I said currently a very manual business process, which in itself is largely inefficient, certainly with around the paper element. More so that's maybe pushed an electronic environment, but we still see very much of our customers getting communication via email and attachments, and then actually printing those off to form, again, a hard copy environment. So the real mantra is if it comes electronically, let's really try and keep it in an electronic format, because there's no doubt that obviously those manual processes are definitely more expensive, and there's an increase in the business risk, loss of information, misfiled information, or even keyed into back-end systems incorrectly. Some major concerns was that sort of lack of visibility of information. So should it be a letter from a donor, where is it on whose desk, or even in what location is it? It can't be accessed very quickly. And again, there's no excuse me, there's no audit trail of this information that's coming in, which when it's captured in an electronic environment or digital environment, it's much easier to track where it came in, from whom, where, and at what time. And that's very hard in a manual environment with paper documents stored across your offices. Customer service, which is again a lot driven by from the Macmillan requirements, which I'll talk about a bit later on, and was the ability to communicate quicker out to their donors and thank them for the money and the time to write in and send a cheque or make a payment, and to note that and respond to them very quickly. And again, likewise on the flip side of that, on a complaint process particularly, so the ability to handle those that much quicker and hopefully retain the loyalty from that donor. Also, it's from the management perspective, is able to get visibility of information quickly. So if you can imagine what may be coming into your mail rooms or into personal inboxes, information, it's very difficult for the management teams to be able to see that and get visibility of the amount of information that's flowing through that charity. So again, we've got the ability to capture that information and deliver that content back to those management teams, and to show the flow of information, where there's peaks, where there's troughs, is there suddenly a rise in complaints, and what might be the reason for that. And it's very important to get access to that information very, very quickly. Another issue that we've had with our customers and prospects coming to us is the lack of integration with the back-end systems. So sharing that correspondence across various systems, something simple as maybe a change of address form. So it comes in and being able to update multiple systems quite easily just with one transaction. So again, with these systems, we have the ability to integrate into your donor systems, your finance systems, HR systems, and capture information once, but feed it many times. So it's a key component of the solutions that we're delivering with our customers. And it's very important that people have got the ability. So from a mail piece arriving in any particular morning, is giving that access to people across your teams and across the organisation within potentially 10-15 minutes of it arriving or being scanned into the business. And again, we can restrict who sees what. And you obviously see there's no doubt ability with hard copy environment, the time it takes to store and manage the paper process. And again, it's pretty much can be a full-time job, pulling in files, boxing them up, sending them off, and then bringing them back again. So there's an alternative out there for our customers, and what we're looking to implement with also sort of new prospects now is how we capture that information in an electronic environment. So whether that's from putting in scanners into the mailroom, utilising your multifunction devices that many organisations now have spread across the organisation, or it could be even from a mobile device or a tablet device and capturing information in the field, getting that into a digital environment and then pushing that information into back-end systems where it can be accessed, it can be audited, and people can then deal with that from a customer relationship point of view and get access to that information very, very quickly. Again, it doesn't matter whether that's coming in via hard copy, electronic formats, it could be SMS information even. So the capability is already there and being used currently to handle these processes much more efficiently. So effectively what we do is we route that format and that content into a centralized platform, and we add intelligence and business rules behind that content. So we're looking to spit out complaints and push those to a team that much quicker so they can be dealt with very actively and proactively. Or it could be that invoices need to go one route, or updates of change of address information, and of course process checks, which is obviously key to the charity. Process those, get those into the finance system, and then get those banked and paid in. We also got capability, once electronic format, to notify the relevant people of key pieces of information. So you have certain service level agreements around document types. The technology and the business rules are there to try and determine what those are and pull out certain information around a customer or donor ID or address information. So really now we have the capability to capture information in multiple different formats from multiple channels. So this could either be in structured forms, it could be semi-structured information such as invoices, or it could be completely unstructured. So it could be a letter that a donor's written in, and again this could have multiple action points on it, such as making a donation and advising you of a change of address. So again, it's just taking those formats, doing something clever, add that intelligence to the process, and delivering that content to those back-end systems, or to the right people who need that information where they can action it very quickly. And again, traditional sorts of formats, it will be your Microsoft Office applications such as your spreadsheets, your emails, your Word and your PowerPoint presentations. Again, but that can be extended out to all sorts of formats, as I mentioned, such as SMS messages, faxes, if you still have fax capability within your charity. And also what's quite important is once we start getting an electronic environment is to make sure that we've got the best possible image that we can have, certainly from a hard copy. So we can use technology to clean up those images. That allows us to extract that data more accurately and then push that content into back-end systems, so we can QS that information, pull it out and deliver that text and that data plus the image into your back-end third-party applications as well. So typically what will be happening inside your charity at the moment, maybe in part or entirely, there'll be a lot of manual processes. Information will be coming in such as applications, grants, invoices, gift aid forms, general correspondence and gonaways, which again we see quite a lot of that. And that information goes to people. They manually open up the information, they understand who it's for, and then someone needs to decide where that's got to go in the next action points. And invariably that then goes up to other teams where they will manually key that information either into your document management repositories, your customer relationship management systems, your finance systems, your donor applications, or multiple applications. And again, this is very a timely process, a manual process which takes a lot of cost, and invariably there's the ability for it to be a bit more error prone because people are keying information. Typically now with the solutions that we're putting in place is to add some intelligence to those processes, so get information into a digital format and then using technology and business rules and lookups of data to try and understand what that content is. So, is this a form that we've asked back for feedback? Is it a new donor? Is it a change of address, or is it a complaint? And intelligently extracting data and routing that into the back-end systems, which removes the keying, it removes the time delays, and it actually gets it into a digital format very, very quickly, which is important and accessible from people across the business. Obviously, anything we can add with automation and validation is more accurate, and again, we can utilize your data that you store to look up donor IDs, references, addresses, date of birth, to do some sort of matching to make sure that a record can be associated to the right donor or donors. Once the information has been passed through these systems, and then again, hopefully this screen you'll be able to see that it's using what we call OCR technology, optical character recognition. So it's taking the content of any particular document or form and it's trying to do a match with your systems to see where we can look up someone's name, surname, address, date of birth, and cleverly attach this record to your back-end systems. Again, on this particular screen that's showing now, it's looking up and it's unsure of a postal address. And again, this can be linked to the actual Royal Mail postal address file. So it helps to clean up your database moving forward to make sure that you're not sending out to addresses and wasting postage and time and letters on the outbound, and helps us clean up that end-to-end document lifecycle. So any of your users at this point, if there was any queries, would they have the ability to be able to pick and choose an address or a person, or make amendments at this point, and that's generally with a drop-down box rather than again keying to take away those error-prone processes. Should the system find a complete match and all the business rules tie in, then effectively, the process will be straight through. So it'll be straight through process. Once it's confident, it's read all the metrics and the business rules, it will go straight through. And again, in this form here, the gift aid declaration, if your internal business rule is that if there's no signature, it can't be processed, then the system can be looking for things like the signature field and box to make sure that there is actually something that warrants a signature before it gets processed any further. And then that saves any downstream time in retracking back those steps and those processes. We can stop it at this stage and maybe route that back out to the donor and ask him for it to be re-signed. Again, that could be electronically, which is less cost, or we could generate that back out as a postal item and go back in the post. So once we have this information and correspondence coming in from these various formats, obviously we really need somewhere we can centrally store these against the donor, so we can get access to their information very, very quickly. Now, you may have your own implementations of document management systems, content management systems, which we can link into. We talked about the integration piece earlier. Or again, we have our own technology where we can link into and provide your users, regardless of their location, again, if they're out on the road or from a tablet, who can securely log in and access this information. So if we know that there's certain pieces of post that come in for a particular user in the morning, we can actually notify them by email if they're out on the road or mobile or work from different offices, so that post has arrived and they can get access to that electronically. So through a web-based front-end portal, again, this can be standardized with your own corporate logos, so look and feel is part of the sort of intranet as such. Users will be able to log in and they'll be able to, we can securely log down who can do what. So it could be just read-only access for some users, and we could extend that out. People can make amendments to documents, add notes, or route information on. So on accessing the system, they'll be delivered with certain pieces of functionality and inboxes, or certain areas of the system where they can see and view their documents. And there'll be certain attributes which is all configurable from the customer's view as to what they want to see in what order. I think the key point here is that information from the point of being received in from our room, for example, 10-15 minutes later, that can be made available electronically and accessible from any person or people or groups of people that want to see that content. That's quite powerful when you think of it at the moment, maybe in a manual environment where that's quite difficult, or potentially a lot more difficult, especially across those of you that have got multiple sites or offices. Again, if you're looking for certain information, there are a number of different ways that you can search for that, which is either saved searches, you can search by particular keywords, but more common is you will search on fields that the document has been indexed against. And that will be things like the supporter reference, an address, surname, Christian name, date of birth, or a mixture, a combination of data. We would expect within 2 to 3 clicks for you to be finding information that you're looking for, or you can just look for a complete record in date order of anything that's happened against a donor. On searching, you'll be brought back a list of information, and again, it'll have all the attributes that have been configured by the charity, and you have, at that point, you can open up and view document from that results window. So on clicking a particular document, and again, it could be a native format such as emails, Word document, PDFs, spreadsheets, it could be anything that can be opened up in the native format. You'll be presented with a copy of the document and all the indexing criteria at that point. You do have also the ability to add notes to it, which is fully audited. So if you need to add notes about a donor or a phone call you've just taken that you want to add to a particular document, again, this is fully track and traceable, and who did it, what users at what times. So there's, from the point the document comes in, everything is track and traceable, even as to who opened, printed, emailed it back out again, or added notes. So the full end-to-end audit trail. And again, this screen here just shows, you can drill down just to say, well, show me who printed this off in the last 2 days, or who's viewed it. And again, that's quite a powerful tool, which in a manual environment is unachievable. A key question that comes up now and capability that we're being asked for is more and more people are working from home. There's also office consolidation. There's remote workers, and also there's hot desking. So again, now the ability to access information is difficult in a manual environment and hard copy, whereas electronically, effectively, it doesn't matter where you are. So there's the ability to capture information whilst out in the field, that's a requirement, and feed that back into the process instantaneously. The good thing about the security of this is that the actual information is not held on the device. So it's held securely within the app until that gets released into the system, and then that goes from the device completely. So should the phone or the tablet be stolen, no access will be gained to donor information. So that's very, very important from a security point of view. On the flip side of that, if you're mobile, is the ability to access information as well very quickly. And you can get those from laptops, a web browser, or again, tablets. Just referring back to what's happening with inside the charity as far as information coming through. Again, the management are very keen to track and see what's coming through, where there's delays in the process. Again, from a very electronic environment, we have the ability to capture that and feed that information back to different teams and present different dashboards back, depending on who wants to see various elements of the process. This is useful at the moment. We're finding our customers are really struggling to put a handle on the feel of information that comes in, the volume for departments, and to see sort of any sort of patterns emerging through the communication that they're receiving, both inbound and potentially outbound. So overall, what are the benefits of moving to a more digital environment? Certainly the ability to capture correspondence earlier in the process. I think that's the key driver, is having visibility of information as soon as it arrives. The ability to improve the support to services with fast access to information. So as I mentioned earlier, information into the mailroom that's scanned in and 10 minutes, 15 minutes later is accessible by the teams that need it. It is very powerful, whereas in a manual environment, certainly getting that to someone's desk could take up to a couple of hours, best case scenario, but then it's not shared and immediately available to other people in the team or in the departments. Significant reduction if you're keying a lot of information into back-end systems. The ability to extract data very accurately and feed that into your systems, removing a lot of those manual processes, allows people to focus their time and efforts on either more fundraising or query handling, or even on a complaints process, which is more important than sitting there and manually keying information into back-end systems. Secure access. Again, a lot of these systems are never really put in for disaster recovery purposes or business continuity, but by the very nature of what we're implementing, they're achieving this. So electronic information will be coming in and then can be backed up as part of the IT mandate, and backed up every night. So again, that's a real improvement. And the hard copy documents that are normally invariably kept for a day up to maybe 30 and then securely destroyed. So of course, apart from things like checks which need to go on to be banked, but any information that doesn't need to be held can just be destroyed securely. We can obviously route and pass information electronically across the business very quickly, and again notify people that information is there for them to act upon. That's very much a key one. That also allows with workflow technologies. It could even be for onboarding from an HR process, or onboarding a new donor and pushing information around very quickly. Integration was touched on earlier, and again it's a very key element really. So if you're in one of your own systems, you want the ability to view a document that's come in, that can be stored centrally, and we can link that back into your core line of business applications. So there's no need to go searching for different places for information. We can just link that document to your core infrastructure. So you can be accessing that from your own system, from your own desks. Disaster recovery, I did mention earlier, a very key element. We do have a number of customers that look to us just to backscan legacy information and files because there's concerns with fire, water, even theft and things like that. So again, information that's backed up electronically is a big bonus about part of the business continuity strategy. Full audit trails. We talked about audit trails earlier, so again, another benefit when it came in, where it is now, who's done what with what information, for end-to-end of visibility of the process. And again, adding other business streams, so whilst raising funds, sponsorship, and doing all the fundraising elements of the organisation are important, there's also the back-end processes from the finance and even in HR. So we can link data into those systems as well that come through the mailroom. And again, freeing up the space. I know a lot of charities are sort of based in London, and rather than paying to store paper and hard copies on site as a cost per square foot, is to move that into digital environment. Don't send it out and then pay to store that for 7, 10 years, 20 years or more, and just start on that path of digitalisation. So that's the main stream. We've just got a couple of slides now on a case study for Macmillan before we head to some questions. So Macmillan Cancer Support, I'm sure you're all more than familiar with who they are, leading UK charity, and their biggest challenge was they were receiving a lot of hard copy posts into their London office, and it was very difficult for them to prioritise the amount of posts, and because it was a very manual process, and going through the manual sort, scanning that and try and push that to the right teams and the right people under a fairly tight SLAs, and the manual intervention that was required to classify and identify documents and push those around, invariably going from one team maybe to another and being passed around, and maybe a couple of days before it actually found the recipient. And there was delays in responding to supporter requests, and again, that was a very key point for Macmillan, and they really wanted to get those addressed. So the solution was to put a centralised mailroom into London and just capture the hard copy post that was coming in and information being received by email, and adding business rules and intelligence to the document, so splitting out what's complaints, what were donor forms, what were change of circumstances, and routing those to the right teams so they can action those as quickly as possible. And the ability to prioritise those documents based on the content and even keywords. So the real benefits were they're seeing they can respond to supporters within 24 to 48 hours, thanking them for the check or their donation, and they're seeing that as driving the loyalty, and just the ability to correspond and communicate with them that much quicker, and certainly reducing the time that they're processing documents and complaints, direct debits, and obviously getting the checks in and getting them into the process that much quicker. And overall, the return on the investment is just looking at the end-to-end process, taking the manual time out of the process and rerouting that time into more effective use across the charity. So we've just run to about 30-35 minutes, so hopefully there was some food for thought, and some of that resonates into your process at the moment, and we certainly be happy to take some questions now. James, if there's any questions that have come through.
Yes, indeed, Dean. There's two questions have popped up. Thank you very much, first of all, for that presentation. Hopefully, particularly what you were showing there on the screenshots there may have inspired one or two people out there to look out for a live demonstration of that, and I'm sure that's something that you'd be happy to engage on. So to these questions, I'm going to do the second one first, actually, because it sort of relates to you were just speaking about Macmillan, and I suspect the questioner is actually from fairly small sort of local single office charity organisation, because it's to do with scalability. The question is simply, is it worth it for a small charity to expect to realise the same benefits as a larger one?
Well, I suppose obviously, the economies of scale, a larger charity will obviously no doubt probably see greater benefits, but I think the point is, in general, if you take out just some of those attributes of getting information electronically, getting it backed up, getting it accessible to other people in the organisation, and even getting that information remotely and just dealing with it that much quicker. So we have a number of customers that start off on a small scale and implement these sort of solutions. Again, from even departmental levels. So the systems are very scalable. I think the point is it's actually more getting towards a more digital environment rather than the very manual, cost-effective manual processes. So we have customers at various different scales. We get obviously as high and as big as Macmillan, but we have a lot of small organisations that are utilising at least some of the technology to try and get them on the digital path.
Thank you. And the other question is to do with integrating with back-end applications. Perhaps you could specify what sort of back-end applications we're really talking about here. And it's really about how easy is it to integrate the capture solution with back-end applications these days?
Yeah, it's a good question. Pretty much, I think without fail, nearly every single system that we implement integrates with one or more other applications. So whether it's your CRM system, donor applications, or the finance system, or all of them for that matter. So I mean, integration, maybe if there's any IT people out there sort of have concerns about what that looks like, but invariably we're looking for light touch integration and just push links to documents that are stored centrally into these applications. So if people work in a CRM system on a daily basis, they can just click on a link and it brings up the actual image. So it's very much part and parcel, pretty much seen as standard that systems will be integrated, and that also adds a value in your existing applications that have been invested in.
Super. Thanks very much indeed, Dean. We had two questions, and no others have come in during that, so thank you very much indeed for addressing those.
Okay, no problem. Again, I think then at that point we're complete, and I hope you did find that of benefit. Appreciate your time to listen and attend. We will be following up with an email, and if there's any further questions that you'd like to come and feed those back, or any feedback in general, would be really appreciated. And if anybody that would like to have a more detailed conversation about what you're doing at the moment and how we can maybe help you achieve some of these goals moving forward, again, then please do respond back to the emails, and we'd love to have a conversation with you.